Okay, so I just got done seeing the latest Transformers movie, Rise of the Beasts. And yeah, there's going to be some spoilers in this review, just letting you know. Alright, we got that out of the way. Alright, let me tell you about this movie. I was a big fan of Beast Wars. Or Beasties, as we used to call it in Canada, because for some reason they don't like saying war, even though, I mean, come on now. It's Beast Wars. It's about robots fighting each other, you know? Yeah, I've been a big fan of Beast Wars ever since I was a little kid. Yeah, it was one of the great shows I saw watching on TV. Early CGI, but I didn't mind because it was pretty cool. Such characters, dramatic stories. It really did have quite a good influence on my life, on my childhood. I really appreciated it. Yeah, I know lots of people, they grew up with G1, Optimus Prime, and the Autobots, but yeah, I was, part of that generation that was more Optimus Primal and the Maximals, And yeah, that was quite a part of my childhood. But this movie, needless to say, it's very different from that. It's I'd say it's a very alienating sort of thing to see familiar characters redesigned and repurposed into their own sort of story. It's kind of odd. They don't even really transform into animal forms. It's like very clearly a robot with some, fur and feathers and such, like hanging out off of this clearly mechanical being. So it doesn't even really look convincing as robots. And they certainly aren't going to blend in with any terrestrial animals, that's for sure. So I kind of wonder what's the point of it all. And here's the even funny thing. As I recall, Rhinox didn't have any voice lines in there at all, even though he was in the movie. And I don't recall seeing Air-Razor's robot mode also. Yeah, it's pretty lackluster for Beast Wars fans, I gotta say. For Transformers fans, yeah, they got plenty of references, though. Lots of references, not just G1 and Beast Wars, but a few other things. Like, Unicron is in there, and the Terracons are in there as well. And there's even almost just the slightest hint of a reference to Pretenders. That idea of, humans and Autobots merging together, like a combination of the two. Because this one character, he gets the Transformer to become like an Iron Man suit for him. And there's also, references to the classic series, like Mirage. But I thought in the G1 series there was this Transformer named Prowl? No, it wouldn't be Prowl.
Nice car. Should we borrow it?
Nah, that's stealing.
Come on, I'll ask for permission later.
Looks more like you're asking for trouble now.
Tracks! I figured I wouldn't get caught.
That still wouldn't make it right. Think how you'd feel if someone took your car.
Pretty lousy.
And if you got caught?
You could end up in jail.
Remember, taking something that isn't yours just isn't right.
It's stealing. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
The Transformers!
I barely recall, but he was this one robot car who really liked Earth and all the people in it, and he just loved having a fancy sort of design for his vehicle mode. And he befriended a street gang youth named Raoul, and he convinced the young man to abandon a life of crime and join the good guys. And it was an interesting story arc. That sort of storyline, that was also replicated as well for the main character Noah and the Transformer Mirage. As I recall, in the series, Mirage always did have these illusion powers and such. And yeah, this is definitely a sequel to Bumblebee, the movie that referenced the 1980s version of, the Transformers a whole lot. Like Bumblebee, the big yellow one, who's friends with the humans and such. And for some reason in all these movies, he always loses his voice and has to resort to using audio clips from pop culture references of some sort. Okay, sure, whatever. He needs a gimmick. It's fine. The funny thing is, Cheetor is also in this movie, and he's sort of like the similar archetype I've noticed to Bumblebee. You see, ever since G1 with Bumblebee, there's always been this theme where they have this yellow Transformer who's, big, yellow, and a bit impulsive. Speed is his claim to fame. He's always good at that. Needless to say, Cheetor does that as well. And for a while there was Hotshot, who was in another generation of the Transformers. And that sort of archetype has always been repeating over and again through the series. It's nice to see that. Nice to see references to like the natural landscape and naturally occurring energon deposits and of minerals and such. So there's those references as well. RC is also in this and does transform into a motorcycle. Very nice. And also there's, I guess it is some kind of controversy here because they've redesigned Wheeljack to be look like Steve Urkel. Or rather, Steve Urkel's robot that he built in that one episode or something. I don't get it. I mean, okay. Making one of them the designated nerd archetype, okay. And the character who was previously a brilliant inventor is also considered a nerd. Okay, that's fair enough, I guess. But they give him, seatbelt suspenders. What's with that? And yeah, this movie also has plenty of references to a previous decade. This time the 90s, when Transformers Beast Wars took place. And needless to say, the CGI has improved because it's good special effects and whatnot, but it's definitely a nostalgia trip sometimes, some of the way forward. But other times, it's not really, because I get the feeling this is kind of what G1 fans are going through as well, because they see their familiar set of characters remixed and reiterated multiple times, and they just keep rebooting this series over and over again because they, Hasbro's got to make money, and Hasbro's got to, maximize their profits and keep the brand going and whatnot. It's understandable, but then again, this means that they're constantly rebooting the series, and things do change, but it's like a repetitive reiteration. There was Transformers Prime, there was Transformers Animated, G1, all the generations after that, whatnot. Okay, sure. And a lot of people just sort of leave and new people come on, and the fandom and such, and okay. It looks like it's my turn as well for my nostalgic childhood memories and such. And on and off topic about that, I gotta say, Transformers Beast Wars, it was definitely different from all the other generations because those stories took place on modern day Earth, contemporary time. The 1980s Earth, whatever decade is going on with the robots in disguise and whatnot, and Michael Bay movies and such. And that's all understandable, fine, but Beast Wars was a bit different. It took place on a primitive world, which we didn't find out until later in the series was actually Earth in the primal past and such. It could just as well be an alien planet. And after looking at some of the video games based on it, apparently not everyone got the memo about that. I mean, have you ever actually seen a playthrough of the Transformers Beast Wars game for PlayStation 1? that shit's pretty weird. Like, I guess this is now a review of a video game now as well, because that game was really weird. Like, for some reason, Rhinox had built an entire city of metal platforms and such in, like, right next to the base, even though it looked like they were robots. I mean, their spaceship crashed on the planet, and they couldn't just rebuild another spaceship or anything like that. They just had to make do with what they had, scraps. But everything's so much more industrious and weird looking because it's implied to be an alien planet, so there's plenty of alien creatures roaming around. So yeah, that was a weird video game that I only got to look at Let's Plays of. And yeah, it was weird. I'm not talking about the one that was like a pit fighter sort of thing. That was a different game entirely. Beast Wars was a different sort of breed because it was taking place on a natural landscape, and yet the main characters of this story are alien robots. There's like no humanity in this story whatsoever, like at least no actual human beings who appear in the story. Like, and that to me had a bit of a psychological impact on me, like to see things so devoid of any humans present. It got me thinking about anthrocentric sort of sentiment, like stories are always about human beings, but this one's got nothing like that. No references to humans either. Of course, that's not quite true when you think about it, because it is a cartoon made for people to watch. So, but yeah, I think that had an impact on me on a psychological level. And maybe I was misinterpreting things when I was younger, but wasn't that also the premise of Bionicle, where it's like robots of some sort who are roaming around independently of their own accord, roaming around this natural landscape that they don't quite fully understand, but they go about it anyway? And I sort of wonder, were Bionicle actually intended to be robots? I mean, they look like robots. I'm not up on the lore of that series, but it sort of hit the same tone for me that Beast Wars did. And that's just my personal anecdote on the subject. And I'm really getting off topic now, aren't I? Well, sorry for rambling. But there's also one more reference I need to mention. G.I. Joe, the organization, does in fact make an appearance as well. Yes, they do. Because, Hasbro needs to make this expanded universe happen. They gotta keep trying, and it's admirable. It's admirable, and I wish it would work. I wish it would, but I don't know. They keep faltering. It's not really getting off the ground. I mean, sometimes superhero movies also have trouble getting their cinematic universe up and running. The Dark Universe by Universal Studios, that was also a failure. Transformers movies. Some of them do work. Some of them are pretty good. But, some of them have gotten pretty stale as well. So apparently, like the first, I think, 5 of the Transformer movies were Michael Bay's universe, his own sort of take on the thing. The rumors say he doesn't even like Transformers, and I don't know, guys, if that's such a good idea for the director to say things like that. And supposedly the first 3 G.I. Joe movies were also canon in that universe, but there's barely any crossover. And like, okay. And the thing is, as I've been informed, Hasbro has been expanding their intellectual property collection, and therefore adding more to this expanded universe. There was that comic book series, Revolution, as it's called, and that's like 6 or 5 different franchises all blended together into one comic book series, because they're making their own comic book universe, their own expanded universe, like G.I. Joe, Mask, Transformers, Micronauts, Action Man, and Rom the Space Knight, as I recall. And, in terms of a multiverse, it could go even further than that, because they've got My Little Pony and Candyland, apparently. Okay. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of possibility for crossovers, but some are a bit more silly than others. But all right, I'm up for it. I'm certainly a fan of these franchises, most of them. And come to think of it, I really would like to see Micronauts return, like just to see it. I liked Ant-Man, and I liked all sorts of movies that are about shrinking and such. I mean, it's just an obsession I've got. But, you know, that's also a premise of the series. Like, they come from a microscopic universe, and they're like aliens do look exactly like humans or whatever. Okay, I'm like really rambling now. The movie itself I liked. It was okay. I mean, it definitely had some cliches to it and some weird parts. Really awkward pop culture references like that. And on a side note, I saw this trailer for yet another iteration of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Again. Because they're rebooting it. Again. Okay. Same sort of situation where it gets rebooted again and again. And yeah. April O'Neil is now this annoying fat black lady. Okay. And the one thing I find absolutely terrible as a reference, they call them a bunch of Shreks. This guy looks at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and says they all look like a bunch of miniature Shrek ripoffs. And like, they came before Shrek. Okay? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came before Shrek. Who's really referencing who now? Now, come on, you guys. And this particular art style, it looks so weird. And they all look like frogs or something. And it's really weird and sketchy. What are they doing? This show, like, what is with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Like, why is it always getting rebooted into something a little bit more immature each time? Like, there was the cartoon show from the 80s. That was pretty cool. I mean, it had its goofy moments, that's for sure, but it was alright for a show. And the 2000 version, that was serious, but also pretty cool. Far more edgy, and I liked that. It was appropriate for the time and place. And then they went with this CGI version for Nickelodeon, and it was weird. And then they do another cartoon version, and it's even sketchier and weirder, and it all just keeps getting more and more juvenile, and that's kind of strange because I thought they were maturing the show, like, out of its goofier stages. That franchise has definitely had some highs and lows. Let me tell you, there's like the Next Mutation, and then that really weird anime one where they transform into robots or something. Yeah. Well, I have rambled on for far too long. Good night, everyone.